Hello, good morning. You're welcome once again to lesson 2 of our Microsoft Excel Masterclass. This second lesson is titled Data Entry, and at this point I will assume you've gone through our first lesson, which was on the layout of Microsoft Excel. Data entry, how to actually enter data into Microsoft Excel, and the various editing that can be done on the entered data, and calculations will follow as well. Here is an Excel sheet on types of fruits, but then we'll go ahead and create a second sheet. And how do we create a second sheet again? Yes, by clicking at the plus sign below, we create our second empty sheet here, which we can name it data entry. If you're opening Excel for the very first time, it is advisable that you save your Excel sheet. And how do you do that? By clicking on File, taking Save As, and then you choose the location where you want to save your file. In my case, I'm going to say put it index D, and then choose a folder, any folder. You can create a new folder by left clicking and then taking new, select folder, which I will name Microsoft MS Excel. Open the folder and then save our Excel sheet fruits. Fruits. In it, when you finish writing the name of your file, and notice we have here save as. This is the file type, which is Excel 97 to 2003 workbook. You can select different types of file here, like PDF or other different extension of Excel. So we will in our Excel 97 to 2003 workbook, and then we place save. An error message will have nothing to but then you can ignore it and you simply take continue. So here we are on our second sheet, data entry, where we can start putting in whatever data type we want to input in. Now we are actually ready to begin our data entry into Excel. Let's say I am a mathematics teacher and I want to enter the data of some students, the mark of students in class, and I want their student ID to appear on the column A, their names on column B, and the score they had in the math test on column C. Whenever you want to enter data into an Excel cell, it is very important that you first select the cell. So we will start here and we will select the cell A1, where we will type student ID. The next column we have student name, and then finally we have score. We can have score on maybe 20 for instance. So rapidly I'm just going to input the name of the students, and we continue from there. During data entry, if you have a large class of student with continuous student number, like maybe from ST standing for student 1001, 1002 to probably even 5000, you cannot possibly keep on typing ST 1003 right up to 5000. So what will you do? What do? You select the three cells which we earlier referred to as range or ranges. Move your mouse to the bottom left. That as I move the mouse closer to the bottom left, it changes first from the thicker white plus sign to this, which can permit you to displace or move the selected range across the Excel sheet. Yes, it can equally change to this, the smaller dark plus sign, which will permit you to be able to drag this to even to the 5000 or any number of cell you want. We are going to drag this to 11 so that we can have 10 student ID. So notice Excel simply it looks at what the data you started filling in and then continue in like manners for you. This is known as the fill or simply the autofill function, and what it does is it identifies patterns in Excel and then simply repeat those patterns. Like for our case, the pattern here was from 1001, 1002, 1003. ST remained the same. Excel simply identified the pattern, and when we asked Excel to repeat this pattern up to a particular point, it did that for us. So to enter the name of student, we select the cell and then effect by inputting the name of the student. This phenomenon which we will refer to as select to effect, selecting a cell, affecting a name. So here we can have a name like John, JN. We have selected, we have affected, we have entered our data, and to effect we press enter, and notice when we press enter, the selected cell moves directly below the first, which is actually where we want to enter our next data. Our second name will be Mary, for instance. Mary, enter. Paul, enter. Have Taken, for instance. Notice that Paul here has been is not correctly spelled. So if I want to correct this or complete the spelling of Paul, I cannot simply type L, because immediately I press L, it erases everything that we have in the cell and not add it to the cell. So if you want to complete a data that you've already inputted in Excel, the only way to do that is by double clicking on the cell, and then the point that the cursor appears, giving you permission to do whatever editing that you can do on the data that you entered in that cell. So in this case, we can simply just press our L. If you press Ctrl A, which is a shortcut for selecting all, it selects everything. So when you double click on a cell, the cursor moves into the cell, and that cell becomes like our working environment. Everything we do is within that particular cell, different from when we are on a cell. If I click Control A, it selects every data that we have inputted on the sheet and not just a particular cell. How is this phenomenon important? You may say, why didn't we just simply type the poll? But you can have very long sentence like the student are in class with their teacher, for instance, and with their teacher, and the misspelled word is teacher, where we omitted an R. Here you wouldn't want to completely start writing this sentence all over, especially in cases where we have large number of data to work on. So we simply double click on this cell, use our arrow key to move within our sentence or our data, and then we add the R and press enter. So far we've seen that pressing enter takes your selected cell downward. What if you want to move upward? You do this by simply clicking Shift on your keyboard and then enter. It takes the selected cell upward, one cell upward. Just give me a minute to finish entering the name and the mark of student so that we can continue from there. Now I've finished inputting the scores of various students, student ID, student name, and their score. Notice that the data might seem very small, so if you want to zoom into your particular section of Excel sheet, you simply use your slide zoom key below here, and it zooms into, zooms into the working space. Here you can equally want to change the font type as well as font size of your entered data. So how do you do that? By simply selecting all the range of cell where you have data. Do this. You cannot possibly go cell after cell to change this, so you have to select all the cells. You can simply do that by using the shortcut Control A to select all the data you've entered. Also, you can select then by clicking on the one corner of your data and then selecting up to where you want to the correction to be applied, or any corner will do. Also notice, if I am out of the range of my data, like here in D6, notice if I'm out of the range of my data, like in column D, E, or row 12, 13, if the cell I've selected is out of the range of my data, when I press Control A, it actually selects the entire page, because I am saying select everything, including the cell, everything with similar characteristics to the cell I have selected. If my selected cell is within the range of my data, in addition to having the same size or same characteristic with the other empty cell, this cell has data in it. So if I press Control A, it select just the cells with the data entered into it, and I can change our font type by simply clicking here and choosing the desired font type. I do love to work with Time New Roman, and then size 12. You can select 12. Also notice that the student name here is longer than the length of the cell. I can increase the cell length to contain this name by moving our arrow up here until I get this the cursor. Notice the changes that occur as I move the arrow to the top of the column, and you simply drag to open up the cell to contain the length of the data you have inputted into that cell. We can equally do this by moving our cursor here and double clicking. When you double click, it automatically enlarges the length of the cell, elongates the length of the cell to contain the data that you have inputted in the. However, if I have a very long data, like the student, quite long, if I want to elongate this cell to contain all this, it is going to be just too long. And if imagine that we have like very lengthy data in consecutively many cells, if we are enlarging, our work environment will at one point become too difficult for us to manipulate through. So a different kind of formatting can be applied to this, which we will see later on. So back to our entered data. Earlier on, we made mention of the fact that if we want to move the selection key to downward, to move the selection key downward, we simply press enter, or if we want to take it upward, we press shift enter. But you can want to move your selection key either to the left or to the right. You move it to the right by simply pressing tab. That moving it to the left is by pressing shift tab. Enter to move down, shift enter to move up, tab to move to the right, and shift tab to move to the left. Paste. Next, we are going to see how to copy and paste data in our worksheet. You may want to copy maybe just a single data. You may want to copy a single data or a range of data and paste in a different column or row in a different space. We do this by simply clicking Ctrl C to combine around our selected data changes in the moment we press Ctrl C. You can undo this by pressing Escape, the Escape key on your keyboard. Another way of copying is by moving to your Home tab. Here in the Home tab, we have copy right here, and we can simply do the copying there. Also, we can copy by selecting the cells or the range we want to copy, left clicking, and then choosing the copy from the drop down menu. To paste the selected data, we simply go to where you want the data to start appearing, select the cell, and then do Ctrl V to paste the data. Notice the source data is still selected. There are different paste options, which we will see later. When we paste our data, we can press Escape to deselect the source data. Another way of pasting is by also going to our home tab, paste is right here. After selecting, of course, the cell where we want to paste the data, select paste here, and then simply click the type of paste you want to do. Equally, we can paste by selecting still the cell from where we want to paste our data, right clicking, and then taking paste from down menu. I just want to move the data entirely. So maybe you were typing, you later on notice that you had to put in some information after the name of the student before putting their score, and we can simply move this column, all the data we've inputted into this column, by selecting entirely what you want to move, moving your cursor to any point along the boundary line, and notice it changes into a 4-directional arrow and the mouse pointer on top of it. You left click and then move, try to move, left click and hold, and then you can move your selected data to any point you want to, in this case to the column G, and everything is transferred, and I can go ahead and input whatever I wanted to put here, maybe like the sex of the student, male, female, M for male, F for female. Next, we will look at deleting or clearing cell content. If we input something into a cell and a data into a cell, and we want to delete the contents of that cell, we can do that by simply pressing the backspace on our keyboard, or do that for now. You can clear cell content. Yes, that's for a single cell, but for a range it's somehow different. Notice that if you select a range and click on backspace, it only deletes the first data, that the data on the topmost it only deletes the data on the upper cell. If you want to delete the entire content of the selected range, you can only do that by pressing the delete key on your keyboard. Let's press Ctrl Z to undo what we've done. You can also delete this content by going to your home tab, editing ribbon, and then we have clear group, clearing. Ctrl Z to undo. It can clear not just all but the formatting. Remember, we formatted these cells to Times New Roman and size of 12. So if we select clear format, it clears the formatting that we did on that cell. Ctrl Z to undo. Let's press Ctrl Z to undo. We can also clear content. Next, let's look at the insert function. Earlier on, we saw that we could displace the content of either a row. We could displace the content of a row or a range to create space. For new data to be entered. Yes. So, but data as I was building my my spreadsheet, and I want to create space for the missing information, I can do so by simply selecting the entire column, right clicking, and then I take insert. It is going to insert a row to the left of my, it's going to insert a column, sorry, to the left of my column C, So if I want the space to appear between column C and column B, I need to go to the right column and then insert. It is always going to insert a column to the right of the selected, to the left of the selected column. Insert a row instead of inserting a column. All I need to do is to select the entire row and then insert a row. This time around the row will appear up. Yes, it appears up, and shift the selected row down. Shift the selected row down. So you can insert a row either maybe up or within your data, in case you realize that you probably omitted the name of information of another student, say which will have ST 005, and then whose name we can take as Will, and Will is a male. Will had a mark of 20. Notice that when we input the information of Will, Will's student ID and Nani becomes the same, which we have to change. And how do we do that? By selecting even just the first three. Is already clear. It already makes it clear to Excel the pattern that it has to follow, and then take the autofill key. Now we have 11 students, and everything is seeming very okay. Our Excel sheet, as we keep on building our Excel sheet, at one point we may want to go to the information of a particular student, and probably we are having like 1000 data, and the student doesn't know his or her student ID. Even if the student know, and we have like multiple thousands of data, it will be difficult for us to go scrolling to find the student ID. Actually made provision for an easier way of doing this. And how can we do that? We can find that by using the find function, which is found in the home tab. We'll go to the home tab under the editing ribbon. Here there is a magnifying glass where magnifying hand lens, you select and then you click on the find. What are we looking for? Say Nani, your student Young, came to you and was complaining of his mark or his or her mark, and then you finally discovered that Young deserves maybe more or lesser mark than you gave, and Young's data is missing in a large quantity of data that you are having. You simply use this function to look for find word, to look for Young. We are looking for Young. Yes, we look for Young. When we click find next, immediately you see Young's name being selected, and you can move directly over to Young and correct whatever information you want to correct. So we close, and this mark has moved from 8 to 12. So the way of using this find function is by clicking Ctrl F Yes, Control F, it automatically bring us to the find and replace menu. Yes, we are in a single sex school where all the students are either male or female, and upon entering their sex, you mistakenly consider some of the students as male. In this case, we will want to find out all the student whose sex were mistakenly inputted as male and then replacing them with female. How do you do that? By using our find and replace function, Control F, or you move to the home tab, editing ribbon, and using our magnifying hand lens there. So the find and replace function appears, which you have a question, find word, we click letter M and then next. You notice M has been selected. The column M for wheel has been selected. What do we want to replace? We don't want to replace it with F for female, so we take replace all. Notice that in addition to correcting the three sex that we had here, our find M for name, Fari from Mary, and Beef Bowl. Generally speaking, the more you can keep your hand off the mouse, the more efficient you are working with Excel. So Control F, we get the find and replace function. Equally, Control H will take us directly to the replace function, where you can just toggle between this find and the replace. One other trick for entering cell values and data into Excel is how to use the autocorrect function. This is going to help you a lot, especially if you're entering large volume of data with a lot of repetition. And how do we find it? We can find it by going to File, Option, and under Proofing we have autocorrect option, and they say it change how Excel corrects and formal text as you type in. So if we click on the autocorrect function here, we have correct to initial capital. Yes, so if we put to initial capital, it is going to correct it to 1. Capitalize first letter of a sentence. Yes, it's automatically selected. Capitalize name of days. So if I'm writing Tuesday and I start with a small letter, Excel automatically corrects the first T to a capital letter. Correct the accidental use of caps lock key. Yes, Excel does. If we click it, it does correct that. So now if we look below here, we have words like about. If you write double B, and how words like about and how Excel will automatically correct it. We can go through these and then make some changes. But if say we want to, in our data we'll be entering, we will have like maybe a lengthy words like the name of our YouTube channel, which is Nazy, and we have innovations and technology. Innovations and technology. This is not quite lengthy, but we can have we can have a lengthier name. So instead of typing the long innovation and technology, I can simply, or NAZI, let's say NAZI, innovation and technology. We can tell Excel that when we put N for I, N for I, it should automatically replace it with NAZI innovation for IT. Yeah, N for I and T should automatically replace it with NAZI innovation and technology, and then we select add and okay. Yes, so from that setting, if we come here for instance and we put N for I and T and then enter, you see automatically Excel recognizes it as innovations and technology. It can be maybe then we can equally add another function like proofing, autocorrect, say M6, that when we put M6, Excel should read it as student performance for the semester. Yes, we can add this as well, and anywhere we put M6 and enter, Excel read it as students performance for the semester, and many more. Yes, actually many more. How to move data across Excel by selecting either the cell or the range and then moving your mouse to any of the edges of the selected range, click and hold and then move it around to your desired location. One last function that we have not yet mentioned is the cut function, which is Control X. For Control S, it performs the same thing as copy and paste, but the only difference is that for copy and paste it keeps the original, the source data, but for this cut function, Control X, it automatically deletes the data from the source location. So let's do Control Z to undo what we have done, and then escape key to deselect our range. With that, we've finished our second lesson, and we are ready for lesson number 3, which will be focusing on formulas, where we will calculate the averages of the student, rank the student, and do so many other functions and calculations with the data we have entered. I'm however going to try to update this data to like 50 students so that we can use in our next tutorial. I wish to really plead with you to like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is exciting. I'm enjoying it. Thank you.